Oh, hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dave here, and we'll be working on our next section of our Let's Develop playlist. And in this section, I originally planned on starting with the watch list for getting various stocks that we want to watch for the day. However, when I was thinking about it last night, I decided to instead, as you can see on the screen, start with MongoDB. The reason being is because in our Twitter feed and in our TikToks, as well as with YouTube, it needs to communicate with our database so it can pull those watch lists. So, being that we're going to be using the MongoDB a lot through this project, I decided that let's go ahead and start there and get that set up and running. So, up here, I'm going to go ahead and link this in below so you have access to it. It's from w3schools.com, and it's the Python MongoDB tutorials, I guess. So, the idea is instead of going through all of these individuals every time I want to go ahead and do that, I want to go ahead and basically make a functions file called Mongo, Mongo functions, I guess. So let's go ahead and bring up Visual Studio. And this is where we left off. It's the sample.py. And in here, these are just the environment variables. So there is one variable that I want to go ahead and add. And that variable is for MongoDB, and that's the URI. And eventually, once we get to securing our database, we'll also add the username and password in here as well. So we'll just copy all of this, and we'll paste it in our environment variables. So in here, or in the project, I went ahead and added a config.py, which is our environment variables file, but it's a sample. So there's no secret information in here, as you can tell. So we'll just go ahead and paste that into the config.py. I already have it actually in the legit one, so I don't need to do that. So once that's saved, we can go ahead and close that out. Now, in here, the sample.py, that's not the environment variables. Basically, we're assigning environment variables to variables within the project. So I'm not going to delete this, namely so I can just copy paste into different Python scripts. But for now, let's go ahead and make a new one. We're going to name this as Mongo functions.py. And the first thing we need to do is we need to import PyMongo. So import from PyMongo, we're going to import the Mongo client. And we'll go ahead and just make that as MC, so we don't have to keep typing out Mongo client. And then we're going to import pandas as PD. And we're going to import our config as CFG. And from here, the first thing we need is we need to establish a database. So instead of actually having a function to create a database, I want to go ahead and just create a function to get the database. And if it's not found, then we're going to create it. So we do db name, and that as a string. Okay, so when you do triple quotes like this, if you have the extension docstring enabled, you can see that it'll automatically generate a docstring. These are very useful if you go into, like when you're working with a ton of functions and you're getting old like me and your memory isn't all there, then docstrings really help out. So, and then returns a database object. DB. Alright, so that is set up here, and first we need to get the client, so that'll be the mc.cfg Mongo URI. So this is basically connecting to Mongo database or MongoDB, and what we need now is we need to get a list of all of the databases. So client dot list database names. MC. Okay. So in this statement, if the name of the database is not in the list of databases, we're going to create. Client. Okay. And return DB. Okay, it's finally popping up. It just took a while. Alright. So we've got that function done. Now the next function is to do the same thing but for collections. Now, if you're coming from a SQL background and this is your new NoSQL, then you basically have your database, then you have tables, and then you have rows, and that's in SQL. In NoSQL, you have a database, collections, and records. So we're going to go ahead and get collection, DB name, string, collection name, string, Alright, so this is going to be sort of similar to what we have up top, um, but you can kind of see what we're going to be doing here. So first we need to get the database with the DB name. So this is returning the database, and from here we need to see if the collection is within that database. So db.list database names. Okay. So just make sure this is correct here. The collection. Yep. Alrighty. So next up is now we need to actually get or create a function to get the records within a collection. So we'll be doing a query records name string collection name string Yep, so what this function is going to be doing is it's going to query the database for a record, and then it's going to store that record, or store those records, into an actual data frame. So this is going to get all of the records in a collection. We can just copy this, paste it, query. Alright, so here we're getting our collection object from the database, and then we're doing a query and storing that query into a pandas data frame named query. So that's what the collection.find does. Is it the collection.find is actually the query statement. And then we're just going to return the query. Next up is the first thing you want to do with the database is actually insert records. So collection name and the data object. So the data will actually be a data frame, because everything that we are doing is all going to be stored into pandas data frames. So is what it is, right? Yep, we're going to be doing a lot of copy paste. Okay. Alright, so next up, we want to go ahead and instantiate, I believe the word is, for a collection. And then we're going to perform a query. And the reason why I'm doing this is if the record already exists, then we don't want to add it in there again. Because what will happen is you'll get like James is 25, or like name, age, then James 25. And if you try to add it back in, you'll get another row saying James 25. We really don't want to do that. So what we need to do is we're going to go ahead and query all of the records. Name, collection name, and then if query dot shape is equal to 0.0. So because it's sorry, because it's returning a data frame, if it's returning a null object, so basically if the collection doesn't have any records in it, the data frame will be in a tuple of 0, 0. So 0 columns, 0 rows. So if that happens, we know that there's no records inside of that collection. So we can do data dot to predict orient records. So I'm gonna go ahead and run this. Okay, and this is, looks like why it's client. From PyMongo. No client as MC. Oh, I see. Yeah, because Mongo client's not a method, so we need to put the string in here. So query, yep. So another syntax error on line 50. Why? Let's close our parentheses, huh? Okay, now it's working. Okay, so back to our query. If the query shape is equal to a 0, 0 tuple, then we're basically converting the data, or the data frame. Yeah, we're converting the data frame into a dictionary, and we're storing that dictionary into a variable called record. So we do a collection dot insert record. Then we're going to do an else. So if there is data in our collection, what we need to do is, because when it runs the query, it's going to, you have your, going back to the example, name and age. In MongoDB, it's going to automatically add in an ID, so it's underscore ID. So because we're doing matching and whatnot, so we don't insert duplicate records, we need to drop that that column. So drop ID. And that's going to be in our columns, so that's axis 1. And we're going to do a in place equals to true, because I don't want to do like a duplicate copies, and I prefer doing in place. So if query dot equals data, we're just going to return. So if the data frame that we're trying to insert it already is in there, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to exit out of the function. So, but if they are different, then we're going to do a pd concat query and the data. Then we're going to drop duplicates, but we're not going to keep the previous one. So records temp dot to dict rant equals records collection dot insert many. Because we're adding a full dictionary of a data frame, that's why we're going to be doing insert many. If you only have like one row, you could do just insert, but instead of making our code even more complicated, we're just going to do insert many. So after that, we return. Save. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a function to delete a single record. DB name. And we got the collection name, but we're going to record act a dictionary. So as I mentioned about dictionaries, so in our application, if we want to delete a single row, then we'll need to actually just format that as a dictionary, That way we can delete that single row or that single record. So let's see, specified. This and this is actually going to be pretty simple. We need to do our instantiation of the collection, and then collection dot delete one record. All right. Next up is if we want to delete all of the records. So every day, like in the watch list, every day it's going to remove all of the stocks that are in that watch list. So this is exactly where that's going to come into play. And in here we just need the database and the collections. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and just pause it from here, and be right back. Okay, so I am back here. So let's go ahead and get this finished up. So in here, delete all records. Collection, and so we'll actually go ahead and just copy both of these here, and instead of deleting one, we basically do a collection dot delete many, and in here we're going to just return an empty dictionary, and that's it. So next function is going to be to, now that we're dropping records, we need to drop a collection. So drop collection, and we'll go ahead and copy this, paste it down here, add a doc string, and then this one drops deletes the specified collection. And again, paste, and get our collection here, and then collection dot drop, and that actually is a method. So let's go ahead and return. All right, next up is something we often do with databases, and that is update our records. So update this. Now this one's going to be a little bit weird because we need to pass in the old record that we're updating as a dictionary, and then we need to basically also pass through what we're updating it to as a dictionary. this as previous record at updating. And this will be the updated record dictionary format. Alright, so next up is need to copy this again and then make our update. Set and then new record and then collection dot update 1 old record and the update, and then let's go ahead and return. Alright, so there is another function here that we may use in the future, and that's going to be like update all records, but I don't foresee using something like that. However, it's there, so if we need to actually use it, we can come back into our Mongo functions and actually add it at that time. But for now, that's pretty much it for Mongo. And next up, let's in our sample here, I want to go ahead and just actually let's make a new folder, and we'll name this as test.py. Then we're going to import config, import Mongo functions as mf, and if we open up MongoDB Compass, you can see here that I don't have any databases other than the ones that it pre-installed. So let's go ahead and change that. So first, we'll go ahead and do a pandas data frame. So import pandas as PD, df1 via pd dot data frame, and this will have name is John, Mike, and Perry, I guess. So John, Mike, and Perry. Age will be 18, 22, 50. And let's do a wage. Be 7.50, 18.25, and then 40,000. Yeah, why not? Alright, and we'll do another one, df2. But in this one, I'm going to copy this, I'm going to paste it. Smith. And the reason why I'm doing this is so we can demonstrate that if we add a record into a collection, it's only going to add the newest information, and it's not going to combobulate our collection. So 17.20. And then, so from here, we'll do mf dot insert records. And that'll be so our name. So if we look at it, insert records DB name. that needs to be a string. So let's do db test. The collection name, collection test, and the data will be df1. Alright, let's go ahead and run this. Age. That might help, right? Okay, so we're getting some errors. Test.py and 13. Let's clear this. Okay, so getting to some troubleshooting here. PyMongo in line 65. Get collection. Collection list. Duh. Ha. Ha ha ha. It works. Maybe. Let's see. Okay, so if we go back into Compass, we can see that we have a brand new database where one did not exist before. And then we have a new collection, and that collection has John, Mike, and Perry inside of it. So let's go ahead and try to see what happens if we insert the second data frame that has all of them with Smith at the very end. So let's go ahead and run this. And let's refresh. All right, now we have Smith. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna call it quits here. We were able to get our Mongo function set up. We did a little bit of troubleshooting. had a little interesting things that went on there, but nothing too bad. And we were able to demonstrate that we are able to insert records. And before I leave, let's go ahead and see if we can drop the actual collection. So, mf.collection. And I did add a doc string to it, did I not? Yeah, I did. So, what's the DB test? Okay, that is lols. Alright, now it might actually work. So let's mf dot drop collection. There we go. So that's db test. And collection name is col test. We'll delete this. And we'll run. Let's go back to Compass. Refresh. Alright, so now that because a database needs to have a collection that needs to have records, so if there's no records, then it'll automatically delete the collection. If there's no collections, it'll automatically delete the database. So that's not too bad for what we're going to be using it with, or using it for. But yeah, all of our functions are working, and we went ahead and proved that everything is working. At the end, we had a little bit of indent errors with the functions, but that's just highlight everything and shift tab. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I appreciate you watching. If you like this video, give me a like and subscribe for more content, and you have a great night. Thanks. Bye.